All right, good morning.
Good morning.
Now, I know it's still a little early, but I think we can do better than that. Let's try again. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, there it is. So, how many teachers do we have in the room? Lots of teachers, awesome. How many IT people do we have in the room? Okay, cool. How many students do we have in the room? All right, there we go. Okay, let me rephrase. How many lifelong learners do we have in the room? Okay, awesome. Well, I am so glad to be here. My name is Travis Allen. I am a college student not too far away from here at Kennesaw State University. Anyone go there, been there? All right, lots of people. I can only ask that when I'm in Georgia, so everyone else, people don't respond too well. Well, my name is Travis Allen, and I'm like I said, a college student at Kennesaw State, and I'm also the founder of an organization called iSchool Initiative. And today I want to share with you my journey of becoming a mobile learner, and what that really means to be a mobile learner. And I'm going to talk about three main points here. First, I want to talk about the birth and creation of the iSchool Initiative and who we are. Second, I want to ask a very important question. Why mobile learning? And last, I want to share with you three things I've learned along this journey that can change our world. So, the journey. You see, I was not born in the same time period as some of you here today. I was born in the information age, surrounded by technology. And what I want you to do is imagine walking in my shoes. Imagine growing up in the information age. And I want to tell you my story. But before I do, I want to begin with some of the technology that already existed before I was born. You have the Nintendo Game Boy 1989, one of my favorite devices growing up. You have the first cell phone in 1984, priced at $4,000. Anybody here own the first cell phone? I was born in 1991 in Utah. This is where my journey began. And during the first decade of my life, these companies started coming into existence. Companies like eBay, Yahoo, MSN, Google, Wikipedia, and many others. These companies shaped who I am and where I am today. But quickly jumping to the second decade of my life. When I was 12 years old, I received my first computer. And this was a really cool time in my life because I had the ability to explore the world around me. I could go anywhere, and the possibilities were endless. A year later, I began my journey as a mobile learner. And I see lots of people taking pictures. That's awesome. But I will also, just to save time if it helps, I will put up a link where you can get the whole presentation at the end of the presentation, just to help out. So. When I was 14, I played a lot of video games. Anyone here play video games? Anyone here have kids who play video games? Alright, well, video games were a big part of growing up for me, and I want to share a personal story. iSchool Initiative was not the first business I started. When I was 14 years old, I played this massive MMORPG, massive online role-playing game. And it was called Star Wars Galaxies. And I played with thousands of other real people all over the world. And I created my first virtual fake business within this game, became one of the wealthiest people in the game, and had 30 and 40-year-olds working for my company when I was 14. Everything I learned in this virtual world, I'm now applying to my real everyday life today. So video gaming was a big part of growing up. And then when I was 16, I dove into the world of social media. And this is probably one of the most powerful tools that our world has seen in many, many decades. I now have the ability to share and communicate a message with the rest of the world for free. And that's really, really powerful. We're going to come back to this point later. And then in 2009, my world began to change. I received my first smartphone, and I did everything with the smartphone. I took it to class, read my books, graphic calculators, took my notes, all on this device. But I quickly noticed there was a huge divide between my education and my real-world experience. My education looks something like this. See, people are tweeting at iSchool Advocate. That's cool. My education looks something like this. We started to see the use of computer labs. Really, it was just used for word processing, maybe occasionally Oregon Trail if we're lucky. Really not a lot of the internet being used, and almost no cell phones being used in the classroom. And my team and I have created a list of grievances we experienced growing up. And I wanted to share some of those highlights with you. Students and learners cram and memorize for a test and then forget it all the next day. Buy outdated textbooks and never open them. Are expected to learn to survive in the real world without experiencing the real world. Schools are bound to four walls and a desk. Are killing creativity from Sir Ken Robinson. And last, our current education system is built on an outdated and antiquated model, fails to account for the different learning style of today's digital natives, and fails to embrace technology, mobile communications, and new innovative teaching methods. Now this is where I felt my education was in 2009. We've already come a long way since then. But I do want to play a video clip that shows where we ranked in education against the rest of the world.
Since the 1970s, U.S. schools have failed to keep pace with the rest of the world. Among 30 developed countries, we rank 25th in math and 21st in science. The top 5% of our students, our very best, rank 23rd out of 29 developed countries. In almost every category, we've fallen behind, except one. The same study looked at math skills and found in these 8 countries, the USA ranked last. But when researchers asked the students how they felt they had done, did I get good marks in mathematics? Kids from the USA ranked number 1 in confidence.
Let me paint it one last way. America's education system is the Titanic. It is this huge industrial age model, and there is so much infrastructure that it's hard to change directions. But the problem is we're headed straight for the information age, and there's an iceberg in our way. That iceberg represents the challenges that you and I face to get to the information age. The problem is not the teachers, or not the students. The problem lies within ignorance. People not aware of the need for change and fear of that very change itself. iSchool Initiative is here today to address this iceberg. And so while my education looked something like this, my real world looked like this. The idea of cell phones, computers, and the internet coming together. And to me, this is what mobile learning is all about. And so in 2009, I was a 17-year-old high school student at Whitewater High, Fayetteville, Georgia. And I was using my phone one day to take notes in my class. My school's policy, though, was no cell phones allowed at all. So my teacher took out my device that day, gave it to my principal. My principal... That's good time. That was not planned, I promise. And at this point, my principal gave it to my parents, and I was in trouble that day. So I went home asking the question, why? And could there be another way? And so when I was 17 years old, I decided to share a message with the only way I knew how, YouTube. Has anyone here created a YouTube video before? Awesome, 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 awesome. Well, I took 4 months to create a presentation showing how one-to-one mobile learning would transform education. This was about 4 years ago. And I want to play the first minute of that video for you all.
My name is Travis Allen. I am a 17-year-old high school student at Whitewater High in Fayetteville, Georgia. I believe I have a solution to America's education problem, and I need your help. My high school is experiencing massive budget cuts, teachers are being let go, and classroom sizes are getting larger. Our public education system is broken, and it needs to be changed. I hope you will take a moment to watch this short PowerPoint presentation I have put together that answers the question, does technology belong in our classroom? You decide. let me introduce you to the future of American education, the iSchool. The iSchool will be built on Apple's popular iTouch platform. The iTouch is a revolutionary handheld device that is capturing the imagination of people worldwide. With its easy-to-use touchscreen interface, it has set the standard for music, video, and third-party applications. With the right plan, this simple device could change the face of public education. The idea is simple. Imagine a schoolroom with no books, no paper, no expensive copy machine, and no more number 2 pencils. Impossible, you say?
I'll go ahead and stop it there, but this video that I put out there and as a high school student began to go viral. And I was getting emails from all over the world saying, this is the way I want to learn. This is the way I want my school to learn. And so the following year when I went to college at Kennesaw State, I decided to form the iSchool Initiative. The iSchool Initiative is a completely student-led nonprofit focused on reforming education through technology. Our mission is to motivate and inspire people to become lifelong mobile learners. Now this all began from an idea. And an idea is one of the most powerful things out there. And what a 17-year-old set out to do has now led to so much more. My team and I now focus on professional development. The idea of students teaching teachers how to effectively use technology. And we set out to do this because one of the biggest problems we saw, a lot of schools were deploying technology, but nobody knew how to use it. And so we've developed over 40 different workshops around mobile technology to really support teachers and students as they begin to embark on this mobile initiative. And our presentations really focus on this concept of find, filter, and apply. No longer in the workforce is it as valuable to memorize and retain everything on here. It is more valuable if we can quickly find the right information and then apply it to our everyday lives. And that application piece is so critical when we work with our students. I want to play a video that embodies this concept of find, filter, and apply. It's from one of my favorite movies, The Matrix.
Can you fly that thing?
Not yet.
Operator.
Tank, I need a pilot program for a B-212 helicopter. Hurry. Let's go.
Now, I don't know about you, but that looks like mobile learning to me. Maybe we're not quite there. But if this is the way our world is headed, what does that mean for the way we teach? What does that mean for the way we learn? These are the questions we have to ask ourselves as we begin to move forward. And so this idea has become a reality all over the country. In the last 2 years, my team and I, college students, have traveled to over 26 different states, doing presentations to over 120,000 administrators, teachers, and students, to inspire reforming education and rethinking how we see technology used in the classroom. We've helped a lot of large districts deploy mobile technology. We've also helped a lot of smaller schools deploy technology, which I'll talk about in just a little bit. But when we work with schools, our focus is to build the culture and the desire around using the technology. That's really critical. I can't force anybody to think a certain way, to act a certain way, but what I can do is inspire them to want more, to explore it themselves and learn more. And so that's what we focus on when we do presentations. And one of our first schools we ever worked with was Kearns High in Utah. And I want to play a video of what we did with the students. We had 2,000 students all in one room. They adopted our vision, received 2,000 mobile devices, and we did a kickstart to get them excited about their initiative. We opened it up with a live concert, all on the mobile devices, to get them excited.
to you, and that's Travis Allen and the iSchool team. It was a year ago that I first saw Travis's video on YouTube and thought, that's the kind of school I want to work for. And today, that's the kind of school we have. They're the people that you're here to watch, not me. So I'm going to say goodbye and let the assembly turn over to them.
Well, guess what, guys? Church High School is making history today. You're all getting an iPod.
I'll go ahead and stop it there, but those students were excited. And you know, before our presentation, they thought, I can't believe the school is giving me an MP3/Facebook/Angry Birds device. And it wasn't until after our presentation that they saw what it would do for them and how they could use it in educational ways. You know, I think one of the misconceptions we have is that students know how to use technology. And that's really far from the truth. They know how to use it recreationally, they know how to use it to play games, they know how to use it for Facebook, but they don't know how to use it to learn. And why? Because they look at their role models, right? The role models are their parents. The role models are adults around them. What are adults typically using them for? And so they see this and no one has shown them how to use it effectively. And I'll give a great example. You know, if I give a kid a calculator for the first time ever, he's going to have no idea how to use it to learn. He might be able to type inappropriate words on it using numbers, but he's not going to know how to use it educationally until he's shown how, and where better to show than in the classroom. So to continue with my story and my timeline, in 2011, I entered into a Google Young Minds competition. And this is a competition hosted by Google where you submit a 1-minute YouTube video showing how you're changing the world if you're between the ages of 18 and 24. I had the privilege of being selected as one of the Google Young Minds winners in 2011 and attended their Zeitgeist conference. Now at this conference, I was able to meet and network with some of the brightest and world leaders of today when it comes to technology and other industries as well. I met people like Larry Page, the CEO of Google, Sir Richard Branson from Virgin Mobile, Arne Huffington from the Huffington Post, people like will.i.am from Black Eyed Peas, Tony Hawk. But one of the most interesting people I met at this event was Peter on the top left here. Peter is the creator of Angry Birds. And I enjoyed meeting Peter because when I went and spoke with him, he shared a story. He told me that, you know, most people think he thinks he became a millionaire overnight, just instant. And he painted a completely different picture. He told me that Angry Birds was the 58th game he ever developed. 58. That means he failed 57 times before he finally found something successful. Now that doesn't sound like an overnight success to me. And I think this is a message that I didn't hear growing up. And so it's a message that our students don't hear enough. I feel like it's a message that we don't hear enough. That it's okay to fail. In fact, failure is one of the most critical parts to succeeding in anything. And so I really enjoyed meeting Peter and sharing his story with him. And then a year later, in 2012, my team and I were invited to the White House to attend the Educational Data Palooza event, where we were able to network and share ideas with the U.S. Department of Education and see what's going on. And really at this event, we learned a lot of statistics going out there right now. You know, for example, in 2012 at the time, there were well over 2,500 schools deploying tablets. I believe the first quarter of this year, 1.7 million tablets were bought by schools. So many schools are moving this way, and you look at other countries. You look at Turkey, I think they're deploying 40 million tablets. You look at South Korea going 1-to-1. Other countries are starting to adopt this quickly as well. So the reality is, it's here. It's happening right now. The question is, how are we going to go about doing it? And how are we going to make sure that we understand how to use it as we begin to move forward? I like the ringtone. Now, our initiative doesn't stop just in the U.S. We've had the opportunity to explore other countries as well. And I want to share a few personal stories here. We've done some work in Tanzania, and I was really interesting my experience out here. We were working with a couple thousand college students out here, and here I was where they didn't have running water, they didn't have electricity, and yet every single one of those students had a cell phone. Not only did they all have a cell phone, but I was on a safari in the middle of nowhere, 10 feet away from a giraffe, and I pull out my phone to take a picture of it. And I had full 3G service on it. They're so well connected out there. And while we're the Titanic, they're a sailboat. And they're headed straight for that information age, and they're moving fast towards it. We've done a lot of work in Spain also. I'll just quickly note that what we learned in Spain was they have the exact same problems we do here. And so I think it's so critical that we go to events like this, because it's all about sharing best practices, networking, learning from others' mistakes so you don't always make the same mistakes. And Spain was in the same boat. Other countries are having the same roadblocks. So I really encourage everyone to constantly network and share best practices and share what did not work as well. And then we went to Finland last year. And my experience in Finland was very interesting. And if you don't know, Finland is ranked amongst the highest in education. They have a very good education system. So our goal when we went to work in Finland was to find out what's different. What do they do that's so different from us, and why are they so far ahead? And I was really surprised. They didn't have more technology. They didn't have longer days. They didn't have any of that. But the one difference I found when I went over there was the culture. And when I mention the culture, I mean the way that the students perceive their teachers, the way that the communities perceive their teachers, and their administration who run the schools. It was very different. There was a huge amount of respect for that profession. And I look back to my education, and I have to say that I've not seen that culture here in the United States. I was that student that none of you would have ever wanted in your classroom. And I was very disrespectful to my teachers, and I really I have a lot of other friends who are that way as well. And so the biggest thing I realized is that teachers are our superheroes. Teachers are why I'm here today. Teachers are the people who are making a difference out there, and yet the culture is not perceived that way. And so I believe that on top of incorporating technology and doing all this, we must change our culture here in the U.S. And that's not easy, but it's doable. And it starts within each and every one of us. We all play a role in building that culture. So this is what I learned from Finland, is to work on that culture and work on changing that in the U.S. Now this brings me into the end of last year. My team and I wanted to reach as many people as possible. And we thought, what if we hold a conference in Georgia and we bring everyone we know together? But we quickly realized it was expensive and it was very hard to do. So we thought, why not be a conference on wheels? And we launched the Digital Learning Revolution. And last year, my team and I lived in this bus for 45 days. We spent our summer in this bus. 9 guys and 1 girl. Traveling cross country to 21 cities. We went from Georgia all the way to California, up to New York, and back to Georgia again to present to schools, to conferences, anyone who would listen to our message. The most interesting stop along this tour last year was the very last one, which was right here in Georgia. our last stop for our tour was my old high school. The very high school that took my device up and did not allow me to use it has now done a 180. They now not only encourage their students to use mobile technology, but they're a completely BYOD district, bring your own device. And this came at a perfect time, because that following year, my little brother started his freshman year at that same high school. And he has the ability to learn in ways that I would have loved to have learned. He has the ability to bring his tablet to all his classes and use it every day in his school. And this is why I'm here today. This is why I started this initiative, to create a better learning environment for our students of tomorrow. Now this brings me into our tour this year. We had a lot of interest from schools and conferences and different places to do a tour this year. And we had some great partners like AirWatch who came in and said, we want to make this a reality. We want to help this vision and create this. And so rather than a 45-day tour, this year we've launched a 6-month nationwide tour to reform education. This is our 3rd month of our 6-month journey. Cross-country, I believe we'll be in New York in a week, and then we head back over to Missouri. But we're going cross-country to motivate and inspire people to become lifelong learners. And this year, how many of you went inside the bus already? Did anyone not go inside the bus so we know to keep it? All right, we'll keep it open until 2 o'clock or so today, and we'll come back to that. But if you walk inside the bus, you'll see the mobile classroom experience on a bunch of technology that is vital to any successful mobile deployment. And that's what you'll see when you go on the bus this year. So this is my journey that's led to the birth and creation of the iSchool initiative. Now I want to switch gears here and ask a very important question. Why mobile? Before we adopt all this and think this way and start moving this way, we have to ask ourselves, why? Why are we doing this? And then build that with the end in mind. So I want to share a few personal stories, a few personal things that mobile means to me and what it does as a lifelong learner. One of the first pieces I want to mention that I think we overlook sometimes is this simple idea of being organized. Growing up, I was the most unorganized person out there. I had the big wad of paper shoved in my backpack, and that was my binder. And it wasn't until I became a mobile learner that I was able to simplify my life. And I went around campus one day and took pictures of random backpacks. This is what I saw. I did ask for permission, but this is what I saw. And for me, I take my tablet and only my tablet to all of my classes. I do not own books, paper, printers, anything. I'm completely digital. And that's what we focus on in our presentations. And I want to share an email with you that I received about 2 years ago from Jason. Jason is a 12-year-old boy. This is Jason right here. And he's from the Caribbean. And he sent me this email 2 years ago. I apologize about the grammar, but he is 12. I have saw your video both on CNN and YouTube, and for a 12-year-old boy, I got a great idea. See, I live in the island of the Caribbean, and I go to school every day with heavy books. What is the result? Exhaustion, tiredness, humpback. School is already a place with challenges for the academically privileged, but to have to carry heavy bags to school, that is torture. That is torture. And, I'm just imagining this 12-year-old boy carrying a backpack that weighs more than him, walking to school uphill both ways. And it blows my mind that there are more effective ways of doing this. And we're not seeing it. And so being organized was a big part of all of this. Now, the second piece I want to mention is this idea of internet access 24/7. Now, this is really what's changing the culture and that shift that's happening right now. Because if we're plugged into a vast amount of information anywhere at any time, this opens up so many doors. And let me ask you, how many of you here have a smartphone or tablet? I'm sure you've experienced this then. You're on the go. You don't know what something is. What do? Google it. That's a very powerful concept. And do you remember before Google when you have an argument with a friend and you just have to agree to disagree? Like, oh, I guess we'll never know. Not the case anymore. What does the other person do right away? Well, let me Google this and prove why you're wrong. Things are changing. Our world is changing. What does mobile learning look like, though? I took this chart from Dr. Ki Chit from Singapore. And he says that there are 4 types of learning. And when you deploy this mobile technology. And we have in class, planned, out of class, and not planned. So emergent learning going on. And the first type of learning is that very planned, structured learning happening in the classroom. A great example of this is, okay, they have the devices now, but I'm still up on stage lecturing, and they're maybe using it for a textbook or something like that. Not a whole lot has changed. And then you go to type 2 learning, which is, okay, you're doing it outside the classroom, but it's still very planned on what you're doing and things like that, like field trips. And where we want to move towards is emergent learning. And what I mean by this is just unplanned learning. So let's take a look at emergent learning outside the classroom. And just a quick example of this is, Susie wants to do a lemonade stand, but nobody carries cash anymore. So instead of taking cash, she uses Chase credit swipe card to accept credit cards. But what we want to move towards is this type 4 learning. Emergent learning inside the classroom. Now this is sometimes really difficult to grasp. I mean, what do you mean by not planned, not structured learning happening in the classroom? And I'll give you an example. If I'm up here in front of my students and I say, what is the meaning of life? Go. That's all I say. You know that you're going to get 40 different questions of anything, of what to do, of what's going on, of what they're looking at. And those questions, as you answer them, are those teachable moments that you never expected to talk about that day, that you never expected to answer. And the reason why that is powerful is because the student wanted to learn. The student asked the question, and they pursued their own learning by doing so. That's what the teacher is there for. They are that guide on the side. They are there for a resource, and it's a phenomenal tool to have. And so these are the 4 types of learning that we've seen with mobile devices in the classroom. Now what next? What does this all mean? In the 3 or 4 years that we've been doing this, we've seen 10 major barriers to technology adoption. Some of these may be familiar to some of you here. First is lack of vision and leadership. If you do not have your high-level people on board and supporting the initiative, you're going to have a really hard time moving forward with that initiative. A very hard time, I'm sure you can imagine. Second, the phrase, we don't have money. It's a common phrase we hear. Doesn't matter if you're public, you're private, you're charter, wherever you go. It's a very common thing to hear. And yet we find teachers who are doing amazing things with $0. We're finding schools that go out and just blow people away and go find money, go apply for grants and things like that. 3 is the curriculum. The way we teach has to change if we're changing what we're learning and how we're learning. 4, we need to go from supplemental use to essential use. And what I mean by this is I don't want just a PDF copy of my textbook on my tablet. That does me no good. All it does is save a few trees, which is great, but it's not increasing the learning. It's not increasing what goes on in the classroom. And so what I want is an interactive textbook, a book that comes to life and engages me as a learner. 5, lack of technical infrastructure. I can't tell you how many times I've gone into schools and they brag, they're like, we've got, 5,000 tablets we just deployed, really excited about it, and I walk into that school and I can't even connect to the internet. If you don't have that connectivity, if you don't have that infrastructure, then those 5,000 devices are going to do you no good. And 6 and 7, the mindset, the culture. This is so critical, so key. The mindset of our teachers, our administrators, and our students. Are they on board? Are they excited? Do they have that desire from within to want to learn? Are our parents informed of what's going on? If we're flipping the classroom and flipping the way we do homework and lecture, are our parents aware of this? Do they know what their role is in it? Are they being good role models for their students when they go home with the devices? 8, takes too long for change. We hear this a lot. we often recommend taking baby steps but moving forward quickly. 9, assessments. If we're no longer about rote memorization, then we have to change the way we assess our students. And that's a big one. And 10, and I think most importantly, schools are buying a tablet and not a learning solution. This is really big. This is what we've seen a lot of schools do. And I want to explain this with this wooden barrel analogy. The idea is that we can only fill our barrel as high as our weakest point. So if we have, phenomenal technology innovation, if we've got the best and greatest, that's awesome. But if we don't have the practice, the pedagogy, the curriculum, the skill of the teachers, the culture, all of these other pieces, then it's not going to be successful. So remember what your end-all goal is. Is your end-all goal to put technology in the classroom? Or is your end-all goal to further student learning and student achievement? Last thing I want to mention here is this paradigm shift that we're in the middle of, and I believe that needs to happen right now. Right now, we're seeing a lot of schools be device-centric, where they're learning about technology. And what I mean by this is, again, it's all focused on the technology. It's like, okay, kids, put away your tablet, we're going to start learning now for the day. There's just this disconnect between focusing on that device and that technology in the classroom. And for us, I'll tell you, I get that schools are transitioning to carts, classroom cart sets. I understand why that's important, but it just goes against the whole point of a mobile device. The point is to take it home. The point is to have ownership of it, to do more with it. So device-centric is where we see a lot of schools at. They're moving towards content-centric, which is great. And this is really learning from technology now. We're not quite where we want to be, and we're really focused on apps and what content we have on the devices and things like that. But what we want to move towards is a student-centric learning environment. Now we're learning with the technology. The technology is like oxygen. It's ubiquitous, it's invisible, it's just there as a great tool to enhance the learning experience. And that's where we want to be really focused on the students when it comes to technology. How am I doing on time? 20 minutes? So I want to switch gears here and show you how I use my mobile device every day as a college student, and just show you some of the things I do on here. Now, one of the biggest questions I get is, how do you take notes on this device? And most college students are taking notes with pen and paper, and they write bullet points. But to me, that's not very effective. How do you take bullet points and then study them? And it's complicated. So I skip the process altogether. And what I do is I use an app called Cranberry. There's plenty of flashcard apps out there, but what I do is I build flashcards as the lecture is going. So for example, I can jump to my business law class. And I write all my notes in question format. I can quickly flip to the back. It's really simple. I just click the plus button. It gives me the front, so it's business law. I might be talking about larceny or something. What is larceny? And then on the back, I can even just talk to my device. The definition of larceny is, and I can sit here and type or talk to my device and get all my notes in here. So this is what I do. I'm in class, I build my flashcards, and then when I'm ready to study, I click study. It gives me the front of the card, I see if I know it. If I got it wrong, I'll put incorrect. And if I got it right, I'll put correct. It's very intuitive. It will repeat the cards that I'm missing. So I want to go back to this idea of internet access 24/7 and mobile. The beauty of this is, when I was a student, I never carried around 300 flashcards with me. Anybody here do that? It's always a compliment. Well, for me, I couldn't do this. So, imagine I have 10 minutes on the bus. I'm at the doctor's for 30 minutes. I have somewhere I have to be, and I have 5 minutes to pull this out and quickly study my note cards. It's so fast and easy to start studying it and use that it's a lot easier to use more frequently. So that's the beauty of having something like this. But flashcards are not always the most effective. It's good for, very vocabulary type classes, and it's not suited for all classes. So I use Apple's app, Pages, which lets me create Word documents, essentially. And I'll show you a final product I built for one of my assignments. So I'm going to open it up here. I was in my HPS class, and we had to build a journal, a log, over the whole semester of what we were doing. Most students would turn in a huge binder full of paper and all this other stuff they pulled together, and I asked my professor if I could turn in a completely digital copy. And he said, yeah, that sounds really cool. So I'm going to show you what I created, and what I want you to do is imagine what your students could achieve with a tool like this. So we have a cover page, table of contents, chapter 1 summary with image and text I put in here, different graphs and bars I had to take and put the data in. I'm going to skip some of these labs and some of my documents here. We had to measure our BMI. I found a free app to do that and inserted all the data here for my teacher to see. We had to measure how many steps we were taking every day for the whole semester. And instead of buying a pedometer log, I used my iPhone, which I carry with me everywhere I go, and it measured how many steps I'm taking. The blue bar represents my steps, and the green bar represents my goal for that week. Now, the really cool part about this is it's not about just replacing something, right? What is it doing to enhance it? And so with this app, I was not only able to show how many steps I took, but I was able to show a Google map of everywhere I've been that day. So I could show that to my teacher and actually show them where I walked and where I ran. We had to build a workout routine. And, you know, most of us, we can't have a personal trainer with us everywhere we go. But it's very important that you do things correctly, because if you don't, you can hurt your body. And so I use an app called Aate. What it does is it builds a workout routine based on what I'm looking to achieve. And then it gives me image, text, and a video of how to do every type of workout effectively. So I was able to take this with me and make sure that I was doing all the workouts appropriately. And this was a really useful tool when I didn't have anyone around me who knew what they were doing. And the last thing we had to do was measure how many calories we were intaking every day. And I used an app called Meal Snap. And what this app does is you take a picture of a food item, and it tells you the name of the item and how many calories it is. So on the left here we have an apple pastry at 350 calories. In the middle it says this is a strawberry milkshake with whipped cream and has 260 calories. You're probably wondering the same thing I asked, and that is, how is this possible? How did they do this? And I think I figured it out. They've got a small room in the middle of nowhere somewhere with 100 computers and 100 people just sitting there waiting for people to send this picture. It's got to be people in there. But this is what I turned into my professor. And he enjoyed it so much he had me present it in front of the class to show him what I created. Now there are a ton of other really cool apps, and my time is going to be limited here. I could do app sharing all day if they let me, but they don't. So I'll just show you a couple of one of my favorites that I really enjoy. Do we have any science teachers here? Awesome, a few of them. All right, well we'll show some science stuff here. One of my favorites is the Elements. This is a really cool app. How many of you seen the Elements? A good handful. Awesome. Well, this app is an interactive periodic table. It's not just a simple periodic table. And I want to start it by opening up with a song.
There's antimony, arsenic, aluminum, selenium, and hydrogen and oxygen and nitrogen and rhenium, and nickel, neodymium, neptunium, germanium, and iron, americium, ruthenium, uranium, europium, zirconium, lutetium, vanadium, and lanthanum, and osmium, and astatine, and radium, and gold, protactinium, and indium, and gallium.
I will spare you, it's very good. But you can click on any element here and get more information about it. So we can go to nitrogen and we can learn more about the object, what it makes up, and what's really cool is if you go to a 3D movie, keep that 3D. This guy's a problem. I'm gonna have to take the cell phone out. Well, anyway, music in the background. I find that just throwing it really hard. right, so if you have 3D glasses, you can see the objects in 3D as well, which is really cool with this application. I didn't find that out until I was just listening to the teacher came up and he was like, you know, you can see this in 3D, right? So, another awesome science up I'll show really quickly before I switch gears here is frog dissection. Now this is a fun app. With this you can learn about frogs, but we'll just dive right in.
Place the specimen in the dissection pan knuckle side up. Pin the limbs to the dissection pan to keep the frog in place.
So I can sit here and learn how
Pin the limbs to the dissection pan to keep the frog in place. Select Use the marker to draw a horizontal line and a vertical line on the specimen.
So I'll just skip right to the end here.
Tap on the organs to learn more.
And then you can click on the organs and learn more. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this because we're running out of time here. The last thing I want to share with you, last app I want to share is called Apps for iSchool. This is not on the iTunes Store yet. This is an app we've been building for 2 years. And I'll show you what it does. Apps for iSchool. One of the biggest problems we went through after going to conference after conference was teachers and school administrators wanted to find the best apps, and it was so hard to find them out there. And often, teachers would run up to me and say, "Hey, can I just, see your secret sauce list of apps?" So what we've done is for 2 years we've vetted and gone through apps, and we've created a filter system. So you can search for iPad, free, high school level, student, math apps, and you can do Common Core standard. You can click on any app, and it tells you what teachers need to know about it and instructional strategy on how to use that app. Is this an app someone would be interested in? Tell Apple this. They refuse to approve it because it competes with the iTunes App Store. So we are working on solutions. Right now we can manually deploy it to district apps managed by AirWatch, which is why a lot of schools we work with their AirWatch, we're able to deploy this app to their schools. However, it's not publicly out there yet. It's meant to be a free app for schools, but we're still trying to work on a way around the App Store at this point because Apple will not approve it. I will show you how you can stay up to date on when this comes out and where it will be released and how you can work with us and maybe look at it on your school's devices. And send a nasty email to Apple. So I want to have time for Q&A at the end. I know I'm the only thing keeping you from lunch. So we'll